Hello and welcome to TA for Traders. It's Wednesday the 10th of January. In this video we're going to do the usual on stocks, and that is look at 2 UK stocks and 2 US stocks. In the UK we're going to start with a share that I've bought this week for my SIP, so be aware of that, and that is City of London Investment Trust. Which is managed by the Henderson Group, used to be managed by Touche Remnant, and the code is CTY. It looks good technically, obviously why I've bought it. And then also in the UK we're going to look at SafeStore, which has come out with figures today, and that has the code SAFE. In the States we're going to look at Eastman Kodak, the code KODK. They announced last night that they're going to start introducing Bitcoin mining at their headquarters. That made the share price jump up. They're also doing some Bitcoin technology for photographers, to stop people getting around copyright, although I'm not sure how that's going to work on with the blockchain as against other services, but anyway, the share price jumped. We'll have a look at the shares there. And finally we're going to look at Apple. Now they're coming out with their updated sales on February the 1st, but technically I'm slightly concerned, so keep your eye on my section on Apple. Let's look at those charts. Okay, so starting with City of London Investment Trust, which is the code CTY, and from the weekly you can see that it came back, found support at the 50-week, initially found support at the 20-week, but then fell to the 50, bounced up through, and is now right at the top of its range trading, and has actually just dipped into new high ground. Momentum is solid. The RSI is up at 61.84 as it in an uptrend, and likewise the MACD, we've just had a divergence as the short term has pulled above the longer term, and that is a buy signal coming through from the MACD. Looking at the daily picture, again, it's all positive. Yes, we have come back slightly over the last couple of days, a penny or two. That's brought us back below these highs, but as I said, I do expect to move up into new high ground above 444, and that's because these moving averages have all created golden crosses, 20 crossing 200, 20 crossing 50, and the momentum is high as well. We didn't get a non-confirmation, it did reach a new high, so that's good. If it does drift over the next few days, yes, the RSI will drift down, but it'll soon turn back up when buying pressure comes back in. The MACD have flattened as well, but the short term is marginally above the longer term still, so still indicative of upside momentum. On the 4-hour, we've pulled back to the 24-hour moving average. That should give support as it has done previously. We've had golden crosses all the way up on these moving averages, 20 crossing 50, 20 crossing 200, 50 crossing 200, so they're very supportive for the market. Yes, we've lost some upside momentum. You can see the RSI down at 52.88, so keep your eye on that for the short term. If it does come below 50, then it could be in an indication that we're going to come back and test the 50 on the 4-hour average. MACD as well are just starting to diverge to the downside, so slight warning signs coming through on the short term, but overall on the medium term I do expect to push up through into new high ground. Moving on to SafeStore, which has the code SAFE, and the longer term picture, looks good. We've consolidated at these higher levels. This could just be a flag. The RSI is at a high level, 62.73, and the MACD are all positive. On the daily, we've pulled back to the support of the 20-day moving average. The 20 did have a golden cross with the 50 back in October, so that looks good. We're in a solid uptrend, and we're only just above the lower boundary of that uptrend. The lower boundary indicated at the moment round about the 480 level, 479. So we're towards the lower boundary. If we can stay above the 20, then that could push us up with the upper boundary seen at about 515. Obviously there is resistance at these previous highs of £5, £5 and 503. RSI is starting to tick back up. It stayed above 50, which was good, 56.51. Still in a shallow downtrend. If it perks up this share tomorrow, one would see that break the downtrend, and that could give the push that's needed for the upside. MACD short term has moved below longer term. That differential is narrowing, but they are above zero. That's just an indication of the momentum that has been lost over the last 10 days. And on the 4-hour picture, here you can see the uptrend that we're still in. It's positive today that we've gone back above the 50 average from this 4-day. That should give a perk up. It will then allow the 20 to roll. It is moving down still at the moment, the 20. So we do need to stay above that level, 484.4. When it rolls in about a week, we will see the 20. If the safe store has moved higher, we will see that 20 cross the 50. But that's to be decided yet. At the moment, let's see if we can get any build-up of any momentum above this 50 average. RSI says we should. That's broken its downtrend and has gone back above 50, presently at 56.22. Likewise, the short-term MACDs moved above the longer term, although they are below zero. Okay, moving over to the States. KODK had an enormous move yesterday. You can see that it was looking very bad technically, and it has been for quite a time. The bounce up has taken it above its 20-week towards the 50-week. There is resistance at the 50-week from the high that we saw in September, just above the 8 level. So I would say that any further upside will be limited. Looking at the daily, and again you can see the enormity of an announcement on a share price if you mention blockchain. But as I said, this 8 to 8.44 level looks significant. The 200 day moving average 7.62, that stopped the rise yesterday, and I would say that's a significant factor for KODK. If it doesn't go above that 200, that will move down, and these resistance levels will come into play. Obviously the 20 and 50, if it holds up, will create a golden cross, which will be positive, but let's wait and see how it develops. I mean, at the moment all I can say is that we've got resistance from this 200 day and then the 8 to 8.4 level, and that's likely to hold. I'm not sure we're going to learn anything from this 4-hour chart that I haven't already said. Well, perhaps the resistance goes up to 8.5. That's all I can say. Now you can see it clearly. We did hold above the 200 from the 4-hour yesterday, so that could be a factor today. That's presently 5.49. So let's see if we hold above that today. Okay, finally moving on to Apple. And here we have the weekly, and you can see that we are just range trading. Is this a flag? Let's wait and see. Positive that we moved up from the 20-week moving average, but we seem to have lost the upside momentum. You can see the RSI just ticking along. It's still above 50, 62.07, so there is still upside momentum present, but you can see the MACD are sidelining. Now my real concern comes from this chart, which is the daily, and you can now see that we've got this range trading that's come into play between the highs of 177 and 166. Each time we've reached a higher level, you can see that the RSI has been lower. So we've got this continual pattern of non-confirmations on the RSI. To me, that's a major concern. Yes, we're above the moving averages, and yes, it was positive that just before the new year that we bounced from the 50 and we're back above the 20. If they don't give the push up into the new high ground over the next 2 to 3 days, I would definitely think it's had its chance, and it will then look to the downside for momentum. So just be aware of that. It's got to move in the next 2 to 3 days. If it doesn't, they will try and test the downside, believe me. On the MACD, we are still marginally above zero. They're flatlining. Keep your eye on those as well. If we fall below 172, that would take us below the 50-day. You'd see that MACD really start to go down. The RSI would be below 50. You could then see the lower boundary of the range trade in 166 being tested, so be aware of that. And finally, on the 4 hour, again, here you can see that the key level is these 20 and 50-day moving averages, 172.46 and spot 34. The 20 is presently below the 50, so keep your eye on those levels. And again, you can see this pattern of non-confirmations on the RSI, so be aware of that. And as I said, if we don't spike up in the next couple of days, they will start to test the downside. So that's been TA for traders. We looked very quickly at 4 stocks: City of London Investment Trust, Safestore, Eastman Kodak and Apple. I hope you found the video of interest. Many thanks for watching. Please remember, the videos I do on YouTube are for information and education only, and they're my opinions, and they are not an investment recommendation. Please read the disclaimer.